Hi, everyone. Welcome to our podcast. I want to go into a little bit about resources that we have. Also just in school mainly, there's a lot of things like tactile things. There's tests, there's talking calculators, there's stuff like that. There's resources even outside of school. There's what is it? A thing that tells you what color something is. There's a thing you can put in your drink to when it whatever. You know what I'm talking about, right?
It beeps when it gets
beeps
full.
when it gets there. I usually just use my finger, but anyway.
Yeah, but if you have like piping hot tea, you don't want to stick
Yeah.
your finger in the glass.
Yeah.
Or I've been pouring drinks for other people, and if you're doing that, obviously you don't want to stick your finger in the glass.
Yeah.
So it has like a little tong on it and a really loud, it's like a fire alarm battery. It's horrible, but it makes a terrible sound when it gets full, so you know.
Yeah, and there's I think a lot of people think we are very reliant on people, which I want to get into a little bit because I think it's very important. That I think people think we constantly, in which I feel like sometimes I'm like, oh, maybe I feel like a burden, blah, blah, blah. But people are not, people assume we need help 24/7. And there's resources, there's things that mobility training, there's stuff we use for us, because the whole goal when you're blind is to be independent. I think that's all of us, but to be independent, and we have independence. Like if we need help or assistance, well, it's like, can you please help me with this, or
And I think a lot of people assume that we have caregivers too, which is interesting. Because whenever I'm with like my parents, my grandparents, they always assume they talk to them instead of me. And I actually had this happen too when I was flying recently with my debate team. And my captain helped me get up to the stand where the security guard is. And he actually asked her, "Oh, how old is she?" And so I'm trying to talk to him, and my captain is telling him she can speak for herself. She's 19, talk to her.
Yeah.
I handed the guy my ID, and he handed it back to my captain instead of me.
Oh my gosh.
So
that's crazy. That happened. That used to happen when I became blind. My aunt, she would be asking my mom. She'd be like, what does she want to eat? Is she cold? And I'm like, I'm right here, you can talk to me. Before I was nervous, I just started getting blind. I want to say anything to my aunt. I love my family and they're trying to help me. But now I'm just my grandma, she was what is she? She was ask my mom if what I want to eat or something like that. And I'm like, I'm right here, you can ask me. And they're like, does she want this? Does she want that? And I'm like, I'm right here, you can ask me. I don't understand. I guess they think we can't hear. I don't.
Yes, so sometimes people try and talk louder. You don't need to talk any louder.
It's so funny. I just feel like the only thing that doesn't work is our eyes. Everything else, well, okay. Anyway, so there's been some, there's a lot of resources. There's a lot of things that, a lot of people are not very educated on, which is, whatever. But we're trying to teach that. I want you to tell, because you explained something last time about in the beginning of the year, there was a professor or a dean or someone that was giving a speech. And when they're on stage and they sort of shake whatever they did with their hand. And
yes, so that was a really good example of somebody learning to accommodate, really taking in the information and then using it. So the dean of the school has a handshake that he does with all of the new knights that come in. And during freshman orientation, I was sitting there while he was, visually explaining this handshake. And I didn't understand it because it was a fully visual demonstration. Mm-hmm. So I did actually end up talking to him afterwards and, saying that I couldn't understand it. He came up to me not that long ago, because we were actually at a meeting together, and informed me that he has now taken in that information and used it to reconstruct the way that he demonstrates that handshake. And now he also explains it verbally so that any other blind person that comes into the school will know what he's talking about.
Yeah, that's amazing. I feel like Kaylynn and I are I don't know, we're doing something on campus. We're sort of starting new things, which I love. There was a whole thing with math, because we both took math, but obviously I can't see it, so it was very difficult. But but I talked to disability, and they didn't they were we've never had a fully blind person. And so I was like, okay. So I was like, we're trying to like figure it out. We're sort of both like learning as we go. And they had tactile stuff, but I was doing tutoring for math, whatever. And we were trying to figure out like a way. And they were like, oh, we have a magnet with the magnet board. So they got me that. And so it's like really cool because I was at tutoring and they like gave it, they like put it on the desk. It's a big board with like all this. And I'm like, what is this? And they're like, oh, it's magnets, whatever. And I was like, oh my gosh. And then I had a tutoring session like right after, and they like switched the board with them. Like they switched it to the different tutor. And I was like, oh my gosh. I'm like, look at me. I'm like so special. They're like, they're like changing stuff. And they're like, yeah, like let me know if this works or that works because this is new to us. We want to know. And I was like, oh my gosh, we're really
Yes.
trailblazers.
I do encourage anyone who's watching this who's not blind, try and think about doing an algebraic equation when you can't see it.
Yeah.
Just try and imagine doing that in your head. Some of you are math wizards and can do that. Not me personally, but think about it. If there's a really long equation with a lot of components to it, having to remember it as you solve it.